In CoolSim 4.5, we've added a number of new features to help people with improved productivity for modeling data centers. This is a version of 4.5 here running, and you can see it's a fairly simple, straightforward data center. This is a raised floor data center with ceiling plenum return and is using hot aisle containment. You can tell by these arrows the airflow is from front to back into this contained area, and the air comes up through the containment into the ceiling and back over to the cooling units, which are attached to the ceiling through extensions. Air is coming out of these perforated tiles. In this case, we're using high-performance perforated tiles from the Triad Corporation, which are better with respect to airflow and dispersion of air in the room. Now, one of the new features in CoolSim 4.5 is we have updated our report, our output report. So let me go to that. It's in the lower left-hand corner. You can see there's a design tab, which is where we are right now, and then there's a report tab. So this is the new CoolSim report tab, and you will notice here that I have actually run a crack parameter variation. That's what CPV stands for, crack or cooling unit parameter variation. What you can do in CoolSim is run up to 4 different jobs. You can see them here, 0, 1, 2, and 3. 4 different jobs with varying cooling unit parameters. The first page you get back after the run is completed gives you a summary of what those parameters are. For example, in run 0, I have crack 0 and crack 3 turned off. I have crack 1 and crack 2 running at full capacity, 16.5 at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. In run 1, I have the other 2 off, and the 2 cracks here, number 1 and 2, inactive, and numbers 0 and 3 are active. In run 2, what I've started to do is apply the concept of running the fans slower instead of just leaving 2 off. Run them all a little bit slower. So here I've run them all at 10,000 CFM, 60 degrees F. And over here in run 3, I went up to 12,000 at 60 degrees F just to see if I needed it. Actually, this one is a mistake. I failed to set that one correctly. I set it at 16.5. But these can all be set up in advance, and then for each one of these runs there is a full set of data. Now this is the output for the first run. We're calling it run 0. And you see 2 things. Over here on the left you see a series of hyperlinks. These are links to 3D reports. Here on the right you see text reports. For example, we have a full description of the data center. These are HTML documents that give you everything you would like to know about this data center in a summarized fashion. We do it for all of the major objects in the room. So you can see we have data center, we have ASHRAE recommended plot, which is a very important one, and we show a 3D image there. This is a conformance plot. Green means it's within range of the ASHRAE spec, which is in Fahrenheit 64.4 to 80.6. Blue means it's too cold. If there were any red, it would mean that it were on the upper range and out of spec. We also do a rack cooling report, which goes through every one of the racks, tells you the minimum temperature inlet, the maximum temperature on the inlet, the average exit, the flow rate, the power consumption, and whether or not it passed or failed the ASHRAE spec. We also highlight the hottest one, which is here rack number 4. That's the one that's running the hottest in the group. We do these summaries. We also highlight the coolest one in green. We do these for every object in the room. Crack performance is important. Let's take a look at that one. You'll see crack 0 and crack 3 are off. The return temps are 77 and 81 on the other 2. Supply temps of 60. And the amount of heat rejected is shown here, as well as the deviation from the average heat rejected. Same for PDUs. Any object, floor cable cutouts, we have in this particular model, I have a couple of them set at 25% open. It gives you the flow rates. And of course, ceiling grills. So, and perforated tile. So every object in the room has a summary of text data that goes with it. That's a very nice summary. You can collapse them all using these carets, again, back here to get back to where we were. Now over on the left, we have a complete set of 3D output for each one of these runs. And again, there's 4 of them. So for example, here I can look at the shaded geometry, and what we get is a full window now. This is a new feature in CoolSim. It's a full window. It pops up and allows you to look at these things in a much larger viewing area than you had before. Let's look at something a little more interesting. Let's look at path lines from the cooling units. So let's expand this up to full screen, which makes it a little more interesting, a little more fun. Now, the particular way that this data center was being operated was alternating units on it at the same time. So these 2 would be on during one period, and then these 2, let me flip it around, these 2 would be on at another period of time. The operators seemed to think that was a good way to even the load on those units. But in fact, it does not work that well, because the airflow under the room gets a little swirled in the center. It creates a low pressure. You can see it right here. Now, what's nice about this new interface is we also have keystrokes. So I'm going to use keystrokes to manipulate this image around so that we can see it from a different point of view. We can turn off perspective, and we can get a nice shot of what's going on in that room from the underfloor. Now we're looking from the bottom up. We're underneath the data center. You can see the air coming out of the cooling units, coming down here, this air going, of course, this way, and therefore creating a pattern in the center where it's fairly low pressure. Now in this particular data center, it doesn't hurt too much because the perforated tiles are actually here and over here. So this low pressure doesn't bother too much. But you'll see that this tile and another tile over in this region right here are, in fact, there's no tile there, but those areas are going to be lower output than the rest of the room. We have a plot of that. There's a plot of everything here, including temperatures, slices, and so forth. So let me just walk through and show you some of this. This is a temperature slice at 6 feet. By the way, these can be set any way you want. You can set them to be any height. You can set up to 10 of these contours per section. So temperatures you can set up to 10, pressures. We also have velocity, flow rate on tiles. So let's take a look at that plot. I'll show you the inconsistency here. So let me just use keystrokes. I'm going to get it into a vertical position. I'm looking down from the top. I'm going to turn off perspective. We also have a new feature here. We have this edit key. The edit key allows us to turn off surfaces to make that image clearer. So here you watch, I'm going to turn off the room surface. It makes that image clear. And now I can see it a bit better. So here are my outputs. And you notice that it's fairly dead in the middle of this room. See, this blue right here indicates that I'm fairly low in total flow through those tiles. Over here I've got a problem too. Again, this is because the air has come over and basically dissipated by the time it gets to the end. This one is going quite strong here. You see good flow pattern there, but as it gets towards this end, it drops off too. So not very good flow rate from that system. We can also look at path lines from the racks, and this is another 3D image of that. Now you see here there are some blocks in the way. Our cooling units are actually blocking our view. But with this new feature in CoolSim, we're able to turn those surfaces off. So again, I just stretch this out a bit so I can see which one I am turning off. I'm going to turn off the room. And I'm also going to turn off those blocks. And you can just toggle these on and off to figure out which one does it. And you see now I can get a good shot right straight through there. And if I use keystrokes to put this into X or Z, Z is really what I want, and I use the letter N to turn off perspective, then I get a nice shot of what's going on there. And you see the hot air is coming up into the ceiling, but it's also coming through that containment a little bit. That containment is set to leak just a little. All containment does. In this case, the racks aren't getting enough air. They're starving for air in this particular configuration because only 2 units are on, and their requirement is greater than 2 units. So what happens in this case is that it starves for air and has to pull it from the hot aisle to the cold aisle. And you can see that in the summary report. So let me just go back to the summary report, and you'll be able to see that in the summary case for run 0, so let's just go back to run 0 and shut that image off. And you can see here that the data center flow through the units is 33,000, but demand by the system is higher than that. So racks want 34 right there, and total through tiles is only 32. So that air has to come from somewhere, and where it comes from, of course, is the contained system itself. Now, in addition to this nice representation in CoolSim, you can also export this entire report. So I'm going to export report here, and I'll just for now just pop it onto my desktop. And when I put it on my desktop, it's going to open with Internet Explorer. You do need Internet Explorer for this because we are using ActiveX at the moment. But I go ahead and I output that to my desktop. And it opens, it takes the entire output and puts it right on my desktop, and then we'll open Internet Explorer to have a look at that. Now it is actually opened over on my other display. So let me just bring that over here and show you that. So here we have the entire set of output from that model I was just looking at, including zip files with results in it in case you want to share them with someone. Now the way this works is that there's my 4 sets of output right here, and I can open up and go directly into each one of these. And under images I have both PNGs, and if I created GIFs, which you can do by simply flipping a switch on the post processor, but the PNGs are always generated for you, and these of course can be viewed or dropped into PowerPoint or whatever you like. And there are all the PNGs. I'm just looping through them here to show you the various PNGs that are automatically generated for you. And we also have the 3D files. Under 3D files, they're called CVF files. These files can be opened independently. Now I am no longer in CoolSim anymore. I'm just using File Manager and navigating through. And I'm able to just simply open a model and have a look at it any way I want, move it up to full screen. I can zoom in on it and show a particular area of concern or whatever I want using my mouse. And then if I want to generate a bitmap or a PNG of that, I have complete control right here. This in fact is technology produced by the Ansys Corporation. And if I simply hit a P key here, it'll generate a PNG of that image in the correct, the same aspect ratio as the one I'm looking at right now, and we'll write it right back into that same directory. So if I go back to my directory now that I was just in, there'll be a PNG sitting right there. There it is, of that image. And I can open that and put that in PowerPoint or Word or whatever you like. The size of the image will be the size of the display, and the aspect ratio will be the aspect ratio of however I set the window. If I set it to be square, the image will be square. If I set it to be full screen, then the image will be more like a 4:3 aspect ratio. In addition, I can always just open up the entire sequence, just like was in CoolSim, if I open it with Internet Explorer. Now here what I'm pointing at is the HTML. This is the master. There's one at the top as well, right here, Data Center Report. This will include all the reports, just like before. So, just like it was inside of CoolSim. So if I open this with Internet Explorer, I can see the entire report open up. It opened up on my other display, but here it is, just like it was inside of CoolSim. Now I'm not in CoolSim. You can see here that if you take a look at my URL, it's pointing at my desktop, pointing at that container, and you can see here that it's the same exact representation we saw before with all of the images in it. And we can again view them, manipulate them, take shots of them just like we did before, using the same keys. Shortcuts all work just like they did. So this is a very nice representation of your data center. It is the most comprehensive, easy to use, cost-effective solution in the market. Thank you.